in chapter 17 of Luke, and we're going to look at that later, and makes a prophetic analogy. We are instructed to look at this situation in terms of the coming judgment on the earth. It's one of the several reasons that I personally believe that the rapture of the church will precede the wrath of God on the earth. Not all kinds of problems, don't misunderstand me, but I think to the extent that the Great Tribulation period is pouring out wrath, I believe the church won't be here. And I'm saying that because of 1 Thessalonians 5 and passages like this, because there's a principle that God lays down here, and I believe that God works by His principles, and a principle here that Jesus Christ pointed to. That's the reason I'm using this 7th verse of Jude as an excuse to get into Sodom and Gomorrah and try to extract from it lessons that are relevant to you and I. Now, chapter 19 is transcribed directly from some of your late night cable shows. In fact, if you dramatize this on cable, you might shock that audience. You won't find anything more grisly. Now that I've got your undivided attention, look at chapter 19, verse 1. There came 2 angels to Sodom in the evening, and Lot sat in the gate at Sodom. Now that's not just a physical location, it's an office. If you sat at the gate, you're one of the city's elders. That's the way they did things. The gate was sort of physically designed as a place that the council met and acquitted themselves of the duties of the day, judging things and witnessing documents and passing rules and such. So this is like a county board of supervisors or something. Sat at the gate of Sodom, and Lot seeing, and you wait, what is Lot doing there? Boy, life would be simpler if he'd learned his lesson back in chapter 13. We're going to look at Lot's state of mind, seen through the eyes of Peter, in a moment, but so we don't lose our momentum, let's keep staying right here. Lot rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. He said, "Behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early and go your ways." And he said, "Nay, but we shall abide in the street all night." This is analogous to you going to Manhattan, checking into a hotel, and telling the doorman you're going to take a walk through Central Park at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. I was in Detroit on a merger and acquisition with 2 partners. And we had to go from our hotel to a restaurant that was 3 blocks away, and the doorman insisted we take a cab, and he was doing us a favor. He wouldn't let us walk. Metropolitan centers, and this happened to be a very bad time at Detroit, so I'm sure that's not necessarily typical, but most major cities have areas that they won't let an out-of-towner go into for fear of his life. It's interesting. We look at Lot here. We're going to read some stuff that sounds pretty grisly. It's not grisly. It measured against the yardstick of our own, quote, civilization, close quote. I've had 4 years of hand-to-hand training as a trained killer, and I've been accosted in middle day in New York where I thought I was going to have to use it all. I was in better shape in those days, fortunately. Metropolitan areas, especially at night, but sometimes in broad daylight, are at risk. And Sodom was no different. So these 2 visitors, which Lot apparently recognizes as important guys, because in his own way you see him go to some bizarre lengths to show them deference here, they're going to go tarry in the street all night. And he pressed them greatly, and they turned unto him, and he entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread. Interesting, unleavened bread again. And they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young. That's bizarre. These aren't just the young toughs. The old men too. All the people from every quarter. And they called upon Lot and said unto him, "Where are the men who came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us that we may know them." Now the population is broadly homosexual. We don't see any hint of euphemisms in the King James of calling them gays or some other polite term. These guys are perverts. And they have visitors in town, and they want to take advantage of them. And they're upset with Lot for not accommodating them. It gets worse, guys. Lot went out to the door unto them, but shut the door after him and said, "I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly." Now, whatever else is true, Lot recognizes that this ain't good stuff. But Lot offers a proposal that blows us away as a compromise. in Lot's mind. Verse 8, behold, now I have 2 daughters who have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do to them as it is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore they came under the shadow of my roof. Whew. What a bizarre proposal. It's hard for you and I to somehow imagine Lot offering that. There is another principle implied here that's interesting. If you are in an Arab country and you are the guest of the host, you need fear nothing from the host. I've been the guest of the Algerian government under very strange circumstances, but I could take great comfort that as long as I was a guest of the Algerian government, despite other factors that were involved, I had nothing to fear. There is a deep tradition that if you're under their roof, no matter who you are, what the circumstances, you're safe from the host. And that you even see that come through in Lot's sets of values here. These men are under my roof. I have to do to whatever I can to protect them. This is a rather absurd proposal, but don't lose sight of where at least Lot's coming from in that sense, but we'll move on. And they said, stand back. And they said again, this one fellow came in to sojourn, he will needs be a judge. Now we will deal worse with thee than with them. See, in other words, they're speaking to Lot, who is sort of one of them, but really isn't. And now that he's obstructing them, they're threatening him too. It's a lynch mob kind of mood going on here. And they pressed hard against the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men, that is the angels inside, put forth their hand, pulled Lot into the house with them, and shut the door. And they smote the men that were at the door in the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. So the angels indulged in a supernatural capability and blinded this mob that was there. And the man said unto Lot, hast thou here any besides son-in-law and thy sons and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them has become great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord hath sent us to destroy it. What is the mission of these 2 guys? To wipe out the city. I want you to recognize as we go here, there's something that has to be a prerequisite condition before they can execute the mission they were sent for. We'll see that shortly. And Lot went out and spoke unto his sons-in-law who married his daughters. These daughters that he's offering were married, or betrothed at least. I won't get into those technicalities. And said, up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy the city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. They didn't take him seriously. And when morning came, the angels hastened Lot, and saying, arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. Interesting that the threat isn't from them, it's from the city. Their threat is preconditioned upon their leaving. We'll see that in a minute. While he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters. And the Lord being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth, and set him outside the city. The angels physically took them by the hand to drag them out of there. There wasn't sort of coaxing and they finally gave in. They took them by the hand and got them outside the city limits. And it came to pass, verse 17, that when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said to them, oh, not so, my Lord. Hard to visualize this. You know, it's we read these stories and they seem so hard for us to picture. We, in our life, can picture this kind of degradation because all you have to do is visit a big city. But Lot, you think he's a slow learner. Behold now, verse 19, thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast shown me in saving my life. I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil overtake me and I die. You've got to be kidding. Behold now, this city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. He's talking about Zoar. Oh, let me escape there. Is it not just a little one? And my soul shall live. You know, there's of the 5 cities, not Sodom and Gomorrah, but one of the 5, Zoar, is smaller than the others. And Lot proposes, you and I think we would be grateful just to escape this, whatever's coming. Lot's